Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, my name is Kendra Lara, and I am the District 6 City Councilor. I'm the chair of the Boston City Council's Committee on Environmental Justice, Resiliency, and Parks. Today is March 23rd, 2023. This working session is being recorded, and it will be rebroadcast at boston.gov/city-council-tv and Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, FiOS Channel 964. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.ep@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all counselors. Today's working session is on docket number 0250, an order for a hearing on installing adjustable height basketball hoops in City of Boston parks. This matter was sponsored by myself, Councilor Arroyo, and Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson, and was referred to the committee on January 25th, 2023. Today, I am joined by my colleagues, City Council President Ed Flynn of District 2, District 5 City Councilor, and the co-sponsor, Councilor Ricardo Arroyo, and District 4 City Councilor Brian Worrell. We are joined by the administration. We have Chief White Hammond, the Chief of Environment, Energy, and Open Space, Leo Boucher, the Director of Maintenance and Operations, and Commissioner for Parks and Recreations, Ryan Woods. We are also joined by Jace Serrano, who is with us and is a BPS student and a community member, and his mother, Stephanie Trinidad, who are in the chambers with us today. So this is a working session, so unlike a hearing, it's much more open discussion, and we're here to talk a little bit about adjustable height basketball hoops. I would like to start off with Jace, if that is okay with everybody. We're gonna get Jace's mic on, and we're gonna hear from Jace what he's looking for. It's on. Yep, there you go.
My name is Jay Serrano, and I'm 7 years old. I live in Roxbury. Why I'm here? Because.
Yeah, tell us why you're here.
You got it.
Because.
You wrote your letter. You want me to help you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Stephanie Trinidad, I'm gonna help Jace. So Jace is a community member of Roxbury, specifically Shawmut and DeWitt. And we utilize the park in that neighborhood often, which has plenty of basketball hoops. The only problem that Jace has is that he cannot utilize them due to the height. Is Jace's wish to see that perhaps they may be added some youth-friendly hoops so that he and his peers can enjoy the parks, and the parks can be an area of inclusivity for everybody to enjoy equally, and not just the older kids who can reach the basketball hoops. Right, Jace? Would you like to say something?
Jace, when did you get into basketball? How long have you been playing?
Let me start. How old?
6.
6. So you've been playing basketball for a long time.
Like 1/7 of his life.
1/7 of his life. Do you watch basketball on TV? Who's your favorite team?
The Celtics.
Oh, I see that your mom is, I think you have another favorite team. I think you're gonna. Are you sure?
What's your second favorite?
What's your second favorite? Yeah, that's the real. What's your second favorite team? I don't know.
Do you still like the Lakers?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, with the first answer.
Uh-huh, yeah.
I'm married to a Lakers fan.
That's the right one.
Celtics season ticket owner, so that makes it.
Well, Jace, I want to thank you for being here with us today. For folks that do not know, Jace actually wrote a letter to our office and let us know that he would also like to see basketball hoops that were really good for his height. And as the chair of this committee, not just only for Jace, but for other young people in the city, I thought it was something that we should explore. And I know that we've been having some conversations about how that happens and what that looks like. Another parent has gotten wind of our working session, and they have also sent a video of another child who wanted to advocate for the hoop. So we're gonna play the video now so that we can see it.
My name is Pierce Alexander Ransom.
Okay, put the volume up.
I am from the Nathan Hill School. I am 7 years old, and I am in 2nd grade. one reason why I want to be in the one reason why I really want to have lower hoops is because when people are just starting and they're starting to get better, some people are just try to do it, but they're just not exactly sure how to do it, and they're not really sure, and some people just don't have the confidence, and they feel like they're not ready.
Mm-hmm. And what's the second thing you think is important?
To be with your families, and if you have siblings, to play with them on the lower hoop.
Thank you so much, and that was Pierce Ransom who sent that video in to. So Jace, it's not just you. I think that you sending your letter is going to help a lot of other kids your age. So you're not just asking for yourself. Everybody else wants to have a conversation about it. So I'm hoping to hear from the administration. What are your thoughts? How does this go? And obviously, you're sitting next to Jace, so you can talk to him.
So, as was said, I'm Reverend Mariama White-Hammond, Chief of Environment, Energy, and Open Space. I oversee the Parks Department. We were made aware of this by Councilor Lara, and so very shortly you will hear from Ryan Woods, who is our Parks Commissioner, and Leo Boucher, who oversees maintenance on all of our parks. And we have some ideas based on what you've raised, but also want to lift up this important suggestion. We try very hard to make sure our parks are open and accessible to everyone. I think what Jace is raising is we think a lot about sort of the tot lots and the playground area, and we think a lot about recreation, but I think what you're lifting up is how do we help our children transition from when they might be playground age, but they might not yet be sort of middle school basketball age, and you're not going to be great at basketball in middle school and high school unless you have an opportunity to start practicing earlier. And so I think it's a really great idea. We try to make sure our parks are matching the needs at every stage of folks' lives, but you have raised this important question of how we help children transition from the sort of smaller kids' way of using the park to the big kids' way of using the park in a way that allows you to gain your skills and show your possibilities a little bit earlier. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Woods to share a little bit. We've done a little research to share what are some possibilities and where we've addressed this maybe in some other parks.
Right. So Jace, I think Commissioner Woods is going to tell you a little bit about what we can do.
Hi, this is a special. This is a great meeting. These are one of the times we really like being in this chamber to have these positive conversations. I can say that.
You're
I'm
welcome.
Very grateful for that. So thank you, Counselor. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old as well that both play basketball. So, and they're fortunate to go into the neighbor's yard that has an adjustable hoop, so they use it all the time. Because in the park near our house, we also have high hoops. So I printed off a couple of pictures that I'm going to share of a couple places. One's in JP. And one's in Charlestown, of the 2 hoops that we know of that are lower level. Mm-hmm. The challenge with these hoops are they are set at, about a 5-foot level. They're not adjustable. Mm-hmm. Because one of the challenges, like when you go to a BCYF center, a community center, or a school, is they have full-time employees that work at each of those places that are able to easily help lift up the hoop and bring it down for every single time somebody wants to use it and adjust it all the time. One of the things for us is we're in our parks, probably 3 times a week. So that's the challenge, is if somebody wants it and it's one of those 4 days that we're not in the park, trying to adjust it and adjust it back up and down. So these are one of the things that we've piloted in a couple parks to see how they work. And that one on Wachusett Street in JP Parkman Playground was a hit. And when we designed that playground, all the parents asked us, can you please provide, in addition to a full-size court with hoops, give a smaller hoop area for kids to go out there, and it's packed. So we see that it's there. So we just want to show some examples, because if we're not always in a park to be able to lift them up and raise them down, or have the equipment there, and sometimes when they're left down, people that want to be more aggressive with it sometimes like to slam dunk and do a little more damage to the hoops than they may intend to. So those are some examples of how we've piloted it, and, you know, I'm going to do my research and make sure that, look where Madison Park area near Shawmut, we can find some areas to maybe pilot another hoop that we can find that might work like this.
And so I think what you're saying is that because for safety reasons, we really don't want to put the adjustable one, but we can put one that is at a lower actual like kid hoop at a lower level.
And it also is on the shorter length of the court, so they're not also trying to make it the same distance as the bigger kids.
So it kind of creates like a smaller smaller court. Yeah, for basketball. Jace, do you like any of the hoops that are on the picture? See?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, you like both of them? They're up to snuff?
Just for future reference, the JP one, is this near the Hennigan?
It's up on Wachusett Street. I don't know. It's right near your
Yeah,
parents'
no,
church.
it's not near the Hennigan. It's near, you know where Walk Hill Street is?
Right.
Okay, right when you turn to the,
I know this part.
at the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
On the Walk Hill side, yeah, it's like literally across from your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's-
So
It's at the school.
park.
There's a
That's
school.
that's not helpful, and I'm not putting his address out there. But anyway, Wachusett Street, it's like if you turn on Walk Hill,
It's actually
there's
really nice
the
park.
second
Yes.
street in, and you turn up Wachusett. It should be one way, but it's actually not one way. But anyway.
It is not.
We did ask for that, by the way.
There's
Did
a
y'all
park on the hill.
At the
It's
Walk
actually
Hill?
easy to get to from
that's right.
Forest Station. Okay. So,
So there is one, yeah, so
And
that
it
one's
has- And
there.
it has parking, and it's easy to get
Yes.
from Forest Hills. It's like
Wow.
a 5-minute, 10-minute walk.
technically, but yes, you can use the parking.
Oh, is that y'all's parking?
Yes, but we are open, the church is, not my parking, but it is the church's park, but there's a desire to have some agreements about like how that, we would share that, yes.
It's one of the better parks in the city. Now, quick question for y'all. When you are thinking about putting up these shorter hoops, you're thinking of facilitating that on the exact same court, just in a different location?
I think so. We'd have to look at what area's out there. If there's an area of court, for example, the one in Charlestown, and I'll share these pictures too, is against the pool that's not open right now, the
Gotcha.
pool wall.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a court that goes and then perpendicular.
Yeah, so one of my concerns was like making sure that if that's how we end up doing it, that, you know, adults are gonna run back and forth on the other one.
Yep.
If anybody falls or runs into one of those poles, we wanna make sure that they're adequately cushioned or that they're in a position where there's some space that you're not necessarily in a position to smack into them.
Right, that's why I can't run they have to be in sort of a T.
Yeah.
Because if you put them on the same, like, because the other layer to that is that level of running back and forth, if your legs are smaller, is a significantly longer difference. So if you're turning those to the side,
Yeah.
you decrease the chance that player's on the, I mean, obviously you can't play at the same time.
No,
matter
nobody can play at the same
But-
time, but I just wanna make sure that when we put these smaller ones up, that
Yes.
we're ensuring that when adults are playing,
Yes.
or,
No,
you know, because Brian's gonna be using the smaller one, so I don't wanna say adults. But when folks are playing on the larger size
Right.
court,
yes,
that they're not running into.
they're not placed in, they're placed in such a way that it would be where the rest of the team would be standing, not where you're likely to,
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
you know,
Because
have
I'm
most
assuming
of
they're-
your fouls happen under the hoop, and so they're not near.
They're not, yeah.
They're not
so,
under the-
so that they're not, like if they're at the half court line maybe, that might make
I don't,
sense.
it's kind of, I think they're a little bit back.
I mean, y'all
from
are the
half court,
experts.
But anyway,
It is basically going across in that direction.
Yeah,
It'll be a
because
little off of
I
the
just-
half court.
Because it's about human adult size when you're at the top of it, right? So you could like run into the hoop. There's a bunch of things that could happen there. We want to kind of make sure it doesn't happen. But I think it's a great idea to do it that way. I know we probably don't. Do we have the resources? Is there like, so
Yeah,
for
I was
instance,
gonna ask
in
what we
Hyde
would
Park, we have a half court, which I've disliked for a long time. There were complaints about it being full court, but the complaints were because it was being utilized. It's on River Street where the Renaissance School was.
is that us or DCR?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a DCR on one? So
I
that
can't say this
So
on
let me bag on DCR
Anytime
really
you
quick.
have a complaint, it's usually.
Yeah, so basically what they did was it was being utilized by youth when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Except the youth looked different than the people who lived in the neighborhood. And so they cut it to a half court for no reason other than to really make it so that it didn't get usage. And so nowadays it doesn't get almost any usage. I've never seen anybody play a half court game there. And so that is the kind of location. I don't know if the city has any half court spaces, but I would assume they get less usage, and a half court space would probably be perfect for an idea like
Do
this.
we ever build half courts?
There was a half-court built
You said there's a half-court built a few
There was
weeks
a
ago.
half-court built quite a few years ago.
Okay.
Over in Charlestown, there was a problem between tennis players and basketball players.
So like a
the
location like
compromise
that
was-
might work.
Compromise, they put something there that was able to suffice for what they did it for. But I think the good thing about the half-court is it discourages the older kids from coming over. Ideally, these guys should
That's
have.
why DCR did
Yeah.
it, but I didn't love it.
These guys should have their space, whether it's a small full court or a full half court. You need a place for separation.
Yeah, because like for instance, somewhere like Almont Park has so much space.
Yep.
That if you were to put like a child-sized court on the other side of the tennis courts, where like there's like a cricket field or whatever, that would probably fit just fine.
Sure.
But I don't know, and maybe this would be helpful. What is the cost to build? Because there is obviously, if you're going to put in sort of the surface, maybe put fencing or not put fencing. I don't know how you would do that or make those
I would say
determinations.
fencing for sure,
Yeah,
just
so-
for the kids' safety as well.
So then what would that run, generally speaking? I just gotta know how much money I'm taking into the budget.
For a half court, we can get you those numbers.
Yeah, we look for something that already has
Sort of a
place-
location.
Existing
Yeah, because
sort
if
of-
not, you're laying asphalt and then painting it and then doing all that, I mean, we're getting into a couple $100,000 then.
If you're laying something down, but not if there's already something
If there's
there.
already something there,
Yeah.
you know. we're
Yeah, if
talking-
you're just repurposing the space essentially.
Right,
Okay.
I mean, I think these are examples of how we could take spaces that already exist and with not a lot of resources, you could add something, but it would have the challenge that you then, the little kids and the big kids couldn't be there at the same time. I think the idea of having smaller kids' courts, right now, that's not usually something that people are trying to figure out how to get as much possibility into
Yeah,
the
so they're
same
trying, so rather
space.
than doing niche space, they're trying to do maximize.
That's where, I mean, you know, having now sat through a few of our design processes, one of the challenges you have is that you have different constituencies of folks that all want different things, right? Like whether or not you can, as an example, like if you have 2 softball fields and that can be a tournament park, but if you only have 1 softball field, then it really can't, because then you have to spread your tournament. You know, so people are trying to maximize space in lots of different ways. The one thing I would say is, because it would be smaller, it might be the kind of thing that if you get lucky, you might have this odd space that could fit it. Whether or not we could do it consistently at every park with all of the different things that people want, I think that would be a challenge.
Yeah.
There might be some parks that could be well set up, because we do have some parks that are smaller, for
Yeah,
instance,
just-
and particularly in Roxbury, we have some parks that are smaller and probably at this point are considered not viable for any kind of recreation because it can't fit anything that's regulation size. One possibility is, as we think about some of those spaces, they can't fit regulation, but these are not regulations. So
Yeah, these
maybe
don't
we could
have any.
have
Yeah.
Yes.
a park where we could have one of these dedicated kids spaces, because they don't have to
And then if you
fit
promote
a
that,
regulation.
and then, you know, Roxbury's a good location because it's central. I'm just thinking through the parks we've got in my district. There's a lot of them are DCR because of the High Park, but Rosendale has a few. But I think if we're going to do this and you actually do it maybe in 1, 2, or 3 different locations, and then promote that to parents, I
Yeah.
think then it becomes sort of a destination, similar to a splash pad. You know, I'm not running through a splash pad, but if you got
Speak for yourself.
I would like to, but I don't have children yet, so I have to wait my turn. And so basically, that's niche, just as
Yeah.
niche. But every parent I know knows where the splash pads are, which ones are optimal.
Yeah.
And so if you create this, I think there is a situation where the market will show up.
Yeah.
Where people who
Yeah.
have children at this age who want them to be hanging out with kids around their age, like our other testimony
Mm-hmm.
came in as, right? Like they want to see them playing basketball with kids around the same age, not on a court where other folks are playing necessarily. It might run into them or bump them or do different things. I think this could work really well, even if it's sort of niche-y. It's niche in a way where for a whole city of this size, there should be enough of a market to make that actually well utilized.
And the other thing we can do, you know, again, this is at the very beginning of the process, but also having conversations with BPS, is they tend to have the way their schoolyards are set up.
Yeah, they're awful.
They're-
I think we talked about this.
It could be,
They're big parking lots.
There could be more vegetation, but But one of the upsides to where they are right now is that it might not actually be very hard to adapt some of them to some of these smaller courts.
Yeah, one of the ones that I'm thinking of is one of the ones I attended, which was the Sarah Greenwood, which is pretty well located. Has that big back road, and we used to use it for like soccer, but it was all asphalt, right? So like, I don't even think they really parked back there. It was just literally just a big, it's a big space. So that's like, and it's already in sort of that condition, and the local community was already going up in there.
Well, Jace also goes to school at the Hennigan, which has
Another
a massive,
space. Yeah, the back.
open, like,
Right, big parking lot.
big parking
asphalt.
lot.
So I
And-
want to point, we are also hoping that that will not be the default in BPS.
Listen, I'm this
going
budget season,
forward.
I made that request through the Hennigan School, so I hope that.
But I think that this is a conversation that could be also part of those deeper conversations about, sort of what are the optimal spaces for our kids during recess, because I'm glad that there's sometimes like hopscotch painted on there, but there's boundless possibilities to go up from where we are.
I went to summer camp at the Hennigan,
Yeah, like
and it was
everything.
always a parking lot. It was very
Throw a
hot
soccer
parking
ball
lot.
out there. And
Exactly, we have
Yeah,
a
and it
lot of
melts.
opportunity for improvement, like so
Yeah.
many unlimited opportunities to get it better than where it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're gonna get answers about budget.
Right.
And like
And
what-
what is the main park that you use?
Well, we live by Madison,
Okay, so Madison Park is the
so
sort
it's
of main.
DeWitt and Ruggles Street.
Okay, all right.
Convenience because of the, literally we cross the street, it's there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we're open, we're lucky enough to have a vehicle and we can get around. But beyond us as a family, other folks are not as
Yeah,
well off or have those type of opportunities.
Yep.
So it would be nice for folks to be able to access them as well.
so one request, now that you know where those two options are, would you be open to you and Jason, do you know the other young person?
No, I don't.
Oh, well,
I
maybe we can
know,
make some
they just heard, I
connections,
know, they
right?
heard about it and they sent us we're gonna
And
connect.
it would be great if they were able to go there, see what we have already, and just give us some feedback about what's there. Because I know that solution is one that we probably could do sooner rather than later, because it doesn't take a whole park redesign. And so it would be great to sort of hear from them directly. Like, obviously, I am tall enough that I'm not going to have an accurate personal understanding of how it works. It would be great to have someone who can have an accurate personal understanding, and maybe also because it's well used, maybe there are parents who can, and then that would give us some
Discussion.
additional feedback. I think we can definitely move on the interim solution.
Yep.
And really figure out, we'll have to look at your particular park and sort of what constraints there are or are not. But I think we can certainly find a park in Roxbury. I know that is not beyond us to find a park in Roxbury that this can work. One of the things I was asking is like, Malcolm X is in process right now. Is that something that we can
I was thinking about that
do
too,
with a
since
small
it's a
change
design
order? But
phase,
let's look. We need to,
Mary,
check
I
and
was
see.
like, don't quote me.
I'm like, Lord, Malcolm X, love Malcolm X. I can't wait. Anyway, but we'll. I think it's something. If it can't be the park that's closest to you, I think it feels like something we could
Yep,
do
yep.
in Roxbury. We would love, as all of you, we hear from all of you about all of your parks. We would love. It is not like we have money just laying around at the Parks Department, so we'll.
Not until we're done with the budget. No.
I plead the fifth, and so, but getting your feedback and it would be great, and then we can do some internal work with ourselves and just sort of see what's possible.
Yeah, that's a fair request, and I mean, it's relatively close to us, and I wish we knew about it sooner. So going back to what Ricardo mentioned, of just putting that information out there for other people to also be
Yeah,
aware of
yeah.
what's available.
Because each of our parks is different, and so like, some of them we have untold amounts of space and we can really think, and some of them we have like real space constraints. Sometimes they're on hills, so like you can't do this or that. But we do have a practice of trying to make sure that certain kinds of things we seed one per neighborhood or one per region. So for instance, we have 3 parks, correct, Ryan, that are full sensory parks where we've thought about children who are blind, we've thought about children who are autistic, but we've only based more expensive and more, involved to do. So we have Martins Park, but we have Ceylon Park. So we try to think about different regions. So I think your point about how do we also make sure that parents know every park may not have everything, but we're trying to make sure that every neighborhood has access to different kinds of things. And that's something we can take back to our external affairs team and sort of think about how are we communicating this better so that if you go to our parks website, you might have an opportunity to say, I'm looking for this resource.
Yep.
Chances are we probably have it, but that doesn't help you if you don't know.
We
'Cause
don't
we
know
have 332 properties in the Parks Department.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so you would definitely need something that helps you navigate that, because it can't be like a drop-down list and you're gonna have to scroll through all 332. We'll have to think that.
That would be painful.
And I, as a parent, because I have a 6-year-old who is autistic, that is how I found Thomas Menino Park, which is where we've had 2 of my kids' birthday parties, because it's like so massive and it's accessible and made for all children, and it has the squishy ground and the steps, and it has like all of the things, and we drive all the way to Charlestown to have his birthday parties there because it's an accessible park, and so it does become kind of like a destination park for those parents. And I found out about it because I went looking for it. I was like, there has to be some place in the city that's like
Right.
good for him and his friends, and that other kids, can also enjoy it, that like might not be neurodivergent. So yes, so there, I know that there are things that are out there. And so Jace, so do you know what you're gonna do now? So you're gonna go try one of those hoops that are your height at one of the other parks and tell us how you like it, so we can find a place to build you one close to your house. Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you excited about that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have friends that you play basketball with?
Yeah.
Do you want to invite them to come and play with you? And then you can all tell us how you like it?
Yes.
Perfect.
Tell her I'll be back. Tell her.
Let me back.
Okay,
He'll be
perfect.
back with his reports.
Yes, write me another letter, or record. You know what? Send us a video. However you want to do it. Whatever feels good for you. Yeah, exactly. And let us know how you like it, and then we'll work together to find a place that's closer to you. Okay? Beautiful. I just want to give an opportunity for my council colleague, President Flynn, and Councilor Worrell to say a few words before we.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the sponsors as well. And I want to say thank you to Reverend White Hammond for her leadership, and for Commissioner Woods. The Parks Commissioner is doing an outstanding job, and Leo Boucher as well, who I've known for 25, 30 years, who's always been involved in youth sports. So I want to say thank you to Leo as well. But I guess my comment really is to Jace's mother, and you must be proud to see this young boy here. He's doing such a tremendous job, and he's well behaved, and he's a real credit. And just want to say congratulations on the great work that you're doing of raising this little boy, and he's a really nice kid. So I just wanted to say congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And I guess my comment, maybe to the chair, or maybe to whoever else. And one thing myself and the chair work on together is supporting people with disabilities as well, young people with disabilities. But would this also help young children with disabilities? I'm just kind of thinking out loud a little bit, with having a basketball rim a little lower. Does that give young children with disabilities an opportunity to play a little bit more sports and be a little more engaged in basketball?
So, I'd hope so. I mean, the hoops are going to be lower, so they'll be accessible. Based on the height, you might be able to work from a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I'm a big Tom Menino Park fan. I walk through there every day. It's kind of a place I like to keep an eye on, because I've got a little cousin who's Down syndrome who uses it on a regular basis, so it's very close to me. So places like that are wonderful. But I think the lower hoop will definitely help with some accommodations, with different accommodations. I mean, the most important thing is especially for a young guy like Jace, who is beyond impressive. We had a great conversation before we came in here, and it's a situation where you want kids who play sports to come back.
Yeah.
You want them to play again. So if I can't reach that 10-foot hoop at my age, 6 or 7 years old, I get frustrated. I don't know what the chances are of me coming back. I'm a little biased. I've been coaching high school basketball for 30 years. I played high school and college, and your dad and I, obviously, we had an all-star team that traveled the city in the 90s, and I have to tell you, having a young kid at 6 years old, because he's 7 now, but as Jace told me, he was 6 when he wrote the letter. So at 6 years old, to do that is pretty cool. So as far as accommodations, I mean, accommodations for people who are handicapped or disabled, absolutely, I think it would be helpful. And then as far as the young kids, I'm just a big fan. It's like it's any sport. It's Little League has T-ball, hockey has half ice, football has flag, basketball. Once again, being biased, having these low hoops is going to keep kids coming back. It's going to keep them engaged and put them in a situation where they won't get frustrated. That 10-foot hoop is pretty high when you're 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Will, and thank you to the panel for being here, and to Jace and Jace's mother. And especially want to say thank you to Council Laura for bringing this forward. And this is also an opportunity to see young boys and girls play sports, but also it's really a civil rights issue as well, making sure young kids with disabilities have equal access to sports. And that's what really the city is all about, making sure everybody has an equal and fair opportunity. So just want to say thank you to Council Laura, but also to the wonderful panel that's here. Thank you, Council Laura.
Thank you, President Flynn. Councilor Worrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this important matter, and thank you, Jace, for making a difference in Boston already at the age of, 6 years old. Who's your favorite basketball player? LeBron, all right. I like LeBron, good guy. I just wanted to point out a location on a park that's going to be redesigned, I think this summer, Fenlon Park. I know they have a full court, and behind that full court, they have another basketball hoop, but they have some distance going this way that could possibly be a location for these smaller hoops. My nephew and I was out there last weekend. It was hard. It took probably like 20, 30 shots, but just seeing his face light up, once he got that ball through the hoop, it just started sinking after that. So I understand the importance of, having those small hoops. And I have a 2-month-old son, and I want to be able to dunk. That's when he gets a little bit older and can remember it. So please help me out. Exactly. I want him to remember something from his dad, when he was younger. So but Fenlon Park, definitely. We're doing a redesign this summer. I think there might be an opportunity there. Just wanted to put that on your radar.
Thank you, Councilor Worrell. Councilor Worrell?
No, I just think this is great. I coached youth sports. I actually coached at the Hennigan, at that field over there at the Jefferson. I think about, when I was growing up and playing baseball, and I had a bunch of kids who would go on to play sort of D1, D2 baseball. Things like batting cages felt like something that weren't meant for our communities, because you would see them in TV shows and things like that where kids had batting cages. When we would play travel baseball, you'd see that they had like batting cages next to their fields. I think Jefferson Field created like a space that was sort of like a batting cage, and that was like a big deal when we had that. So whenever you can give folks access to things that other folks sort of take for granted, it goes a lot further. And so if there's spaces, obviously I would love this in my district. I think a lot of folks would love something like this in their district. I feel like that's probably universal for all the district councilors, to be honest with you. But if we can centralize it in just a few places that are easily accessible for folks, and I'm thinking about, where it's spaced and all of those, I think that would be a good idea. I don't think this is something where every single park necessarily could accommodate this or would actually need this, but I think if we can try to aim for maybe one per neighborhood, or if it's close enough to both neighborhoods in a way that transit friendly, that you could sort of say, look, within reason, parents within these neighborhoods have an outlet to go to for this, and I think you'll see that fill up pretty quickly, right? Like, I also think that they're, not spoken in any of this is that children that are 6 or 7, unless they're like my parents, are not showing up to these parks by themselves. They're showing up with parents, and one of the things that I've realized on a separate, completely unrelated aspect of that is, like, for instance, with dog parks, there's a community that's built out around that. There's a community of parents that can now sort of meet each other and see each other and talk to each other. And I was actually really surprised because I didn't have children yet, and I still don't, though we're working on that. I have to say, I'm required to say that, it's in my contract, whenever we talk about children things. But basically, when you think about the community aspect of that, there's like a real community building aspect to that I think is really important when we talk about opportunities to folks, having more people know about different things. And when you're putting a bunch of parents together, they're usually sharing about resources or schools or different things that are happening. So I think that in and of itself would be worth the investment. Never mind all the added benefit of having children of his age and young girls who would want to play on those hoops as well. In the city have access to that, because that's something right now that if we wanted to see it, I think all of us, you coach basketball, most children who are that age, they have some adjustable hoop at home if they're actually playing sports or their parents are invested in that. And I think for the city to be able to provide that for people who don't have the opportunity to have an adjustable hoop, either because they're living in affordable housing or they're living in a space that doesn't have that access, like an actual place for you to put that. Eastie comes to mind, right, unless you put that on the street. And so, like, where we can make a city investment in that, I think it's worth doing. I'm always a little shocked at what the price tags are, but I think that when we could, it's always like,
I know. When you said that, you were like, if we put down asphalt, 200, I was like, how much?
When we talked about like the
It
M
adds
Street,
up.
like when we talked about the M Street playground and that ran like $5 million, and I was like, you did what now? You signed Marcus Banks for what?
I was like,
So there's a whole, that's an old basketball reference, by the way. It's not a Marcus Smart mistake.
Yeah.
But basically, that is how much it costs. It costs like millions of dollars for some of these redos. And so if we can find places where we could work it in, I think that would be excellent, right? So for public, I don't know if this is televised or not. Are we televising this?
it will be rebroadcast.
Yeah, so this is rebroadcast. This is not as simple as you going to like Target and buying your $100 hoop, right? So it's like, to be clear, we understand that there's parameters there. There's probably some, are there any sort of special safety things that would have to take part?
Yes, that's why the adjustable ones can't be.
No, I knew that, because they fall, like, you can literally, I immediately thought that was a bad idea. But like the smaller ones, is there any difference because of who it's guided to? So for instance, is there a general idea that the rules are the same across the board for an adult basketball court and a youth basketball court? There's no special sort of rules that are accommodations
Well,
for youth?
this is even smaller potentially than a youth basketball court. I mean, the upside to it is, like, most of the time when we build, we've got to build for leagues. We're building so that
Yeah, you're
people
building
can- right.
regulation.
But this I think I think have a little bit of leeway here because we're
it's
not building
You're not
for
doing
leagues.
regulation
Yeah.
aspect things. And then is there a way, perhaps, you brought up half skate, maybe if we're dedicating space in this fashion, there's a way to multi-purpose it for youth of that age group? So like, I don't know if there's a way to necessarily do that on the same space, but I remember when they built the High Park Ave soccer field, adjacent to it, they had that smaller youth soccer field. It was very small. And then adults ended up using it as well, but it was like a smaller soccer field in size, with sort of like the same idea. You don't want children running longer distances than they have to. And so I don't know if there's a way to multi-purpose it with field hockey or something like that for that age group, but maybe different seasons, different uses.
Sometimes we can. I mean, I think this is
I'm just thinking
sometimes
of ways
in
to
the whole sort
justify-
of turf that, like, there are some times when we can overlap fields and other times where it's a little bit more,
tricky.
yeah.
Because I just know that the focus is when they invest in things, making sure that it's as multi-purpose as possible. So I don't know if there's a way to make that sort of an all-size fits youth facility.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the question of making things as multi-purpose as possible is actually very much part of the heart of the design and construction team when they're out in the community, being really honest with people about, like, we can do this if we have this amount of space, but, you know, it is true that sometimes people want like 7 things out of the same space, and there's sometimes limitations into how much we can do this. But I do think what I will say is we have talked about this with the design and construction team, and I think that this, in addition to sort of meeting this immediate need and figuring out how we can lean in, this also gives us an opportunity to think about, is this something that we could be doing in more places? And again, getting to the point where we can have some dedicated youth like spaces, I think is something we can keep an eye out for now that we're thinking about it. Maybe there's a way to add it onto the side of things, or if we have a little extra space, or because we don't have the same constraints in terms of it being regulation, we can think outside the box a little. I do think one thing I really want to do is really think about this with BPS, because I really think this actually can
synergy.
work
Yeah, very
within
symbiotic.
the kinds of spaces that they already have. They're not interested in doing sort of maintaining some of the grass fields and all of the other pieces that we do.
I've heard.
But and I'm not, it's not enough to BPS, but I'm saying they already have quite a few asphalt spaces in proximity to children that
already
maybe
sort of
with
paved, yeah.
a little paint and some leveling could also meet a need well without, you know, we can still do it in some of our parks, but I'm just saying they have a lot of spaces.
I think of the Madison
Right.
Park, O'Brien back there, like they redid those baseball fields, they redid those, and they're
Yes.
used by community.
Yes, we
So
run
There's
those.
a pretty good synergy.
Almost all but BPS fields are actually parks. Right.
And is it actually, does that property actually belong to the school or to parks?
They usually own, right? They usually own and we manage.
Yeah, BPS owns the land because they won't Article 97 protect it in case they ever had to do an extension or something on the school. However, we have the care and control, so
Got it.
Charlestown High School, English High Fields, Madison Park, they're all done by the Parks Department.
That makes a lot of sense. And then another park that isn't yet on the radar for a redesign, but it's been talked about a lot, and I'm pushing for it this budget just to start the planning, not to jump ahead of anything that we have to do, but just future-wise, is Ross Field in High Park. Has not been really, it's a large space, has multiple baseball fields. I've played on them. They haven't changed since I've played on them. There's been requests from community for like field hockey, things like that. They used to have a field hockey court. But I also think about that as sort of a, Ross Field, if you're familiar with the area, is one of the only parks sort of in that space. It has some troubled elements to that area, and the park is sort of a nexus to that entire area. So if you, I feel like it's one of those moments where if you invest in that park, you're investing in much of that community and that surrounding community in a way that they haven't really felt invested in. And so this might be, I don't think it currently, it's been a little bit since I've checked, but I don't think they actually have a basketball court to my knowledge. They have like major fields, like a lot of field space, but I don't know that they have a dedicated basketball court. Yeah, no. And so this is something where what I wanted to do in this budget cycle is see if we can start having somebody look at it for designs, what we could do there. I've had preliminary conversations with the administration on that, so stay posted on that. But this might be something where if it works somewhere else, maybe we work it into this. That's further down the line, obviously.
Yes. We know that there's a backlog on the projects that we have, and we have also been having conversations. I think we're making some progress on what we would need to make sure that more of the parks that we're supposed to be designing and moving along are moving faster. We've
I like the
heard that.
BPS tie-in though. I think that works provided that the spaces are still open, that the community is aware that that space is a community
Right.
space and not restricted to that school.
True. Right.
That's
But
the only
I do think that if the kids in the school are using it, that is possibly a faster way to get the word out than us putting it on our website because of that
guaranteed.
whole
Yeah, guaranteed.
parent network that you mentioned.
Yeah, that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Thank you so much to the administration for being here with us. Jace, I hope
Thanks, Jace.
that you are excited about going to try the shorter basketball hoop and tell us how you like it. And then we're gonna keep working to see if we can get one closer to you. And I'm sorry that it took us a year of your life to get you.
Yeah, it's like 1/7.
that you sent this letter when you were 6, and now at 7 years old is when you finally got it here. I promise you that the time will only get longer. So please keep writing letters. We love to get them, and let your friends know at school that you might get some hoops where you all can play. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. This working session on docket 0250 is adjourned.
Good lesson about yourself.